What was the best relationship advice you ever got? Story 1. Discuss life goals, especially kids, and financial habits before you get married. If one person wants 6 kids and the other wants to be childless, that's not going to work. If one person has champagne tastes and spending habits, but you as a couple have a boxed wine budget, then that is a problem. More than one marriage has been ended because one spouse is bad with money and refuses to live within their means. Answer: holy shoot, I wish I had known this sooner, or I did know this, but didn't heed my own instincts. Dated a woman for years that was like, I'm fine living paycheck to paycheck and scraping by. I've done it all my life and I'm used to it. Cool, except she made it a point to always scrape by. Didn't matter how much money we made as a family. During my busy months, I can make $8K a month. Somehow, we'd still only barely get by or stash away very little. She was like a carp. Her spending would grow as big as the budget permitted. It was only ever going to be living paycheck to paycheck, which was insanely stressful. I'd call it constant financial terrorism, just no way to live. Story 2. There is no reason to keep score. You are both on the same team. If one or both of you starts keeping score with things, it is time to evaluate the state of the relationship and why this is occurring. On a related note, all problems can be solved, but not all problems are worth solving. Answer: similarly, you should always feel like you're doing more than half the work. Partially because this way you know you're not freeloading off of your partner's work, and partially because your partner probably does 100 things a week that you don't see and may not even notice. Simple stuff like wiping out the sink, dusting a surface, etc. Be a steward of your shared spaces so your partner doesn't have to do it all on their own. Story 3. That relationships are so hard or marriage takes so much work is terrible advice. Relationships take effort and maintenance and mindfulness, but it shouldn't be work. It's a garden, not a salt mine. If literally everything is an uphill struggle all the time, you're not compatible. Move on. All relationships are so hard, y'all, teaches people is to stay in relationships that are bad for them. Get therapy and find healthy partners. And definitely don't have kids if your relationship is already OMG so hard. Answer: yeah, when I see posts from people who have been together for 6 years and in counseling for 4, and now this whole new issue is coming up on top of that, I am in awe of the dedication, but guys, maybe it's time to put the relationship out of its misery already. A friend of mine used that mentality of all relationships take work to accept regular fights as an inevitability. Then after the last shitheel threw a chair at her for not sealing up the Cheez-Its properly, I wish I was exaggerating, it occurred to her that all those fights were a sign that she kept choosing abusive assholes. I know people love to say that if everybody around you is a jerk, you must be the jerk. But sometimes people who have grown up in dysfunctional homes, as my friend did, have broken jerk meters. So she made a point of choosing the absolute nicest, cutest, sweetheart of a guy, and they are now 2 years married. I officiated at their wedding. Story 4. A partner is the cherry on top of a cake. The cake is your responsibility. Translation: a good partner can make you happier in life, but can never make you happy. It is your own responsibility to have a happy and fulfilling life. The inverse is a little different. A bad partner can ruin your happiness, but it is your own responsibility to not let a bad cherry ruin your cake, not let a bad partner ruin your happiness. Story 5. Even head over heels in love people get on each other's nerves once in a while. It's not necessarily a sign of trouble, or that you're growing apart, or you or she isn't good or the right one. You're together almost all the time. It's a sign that you're human. Story 6. Make time. You'll always have 1,000,001 things that need your attention, but if you're going to be with someone, start a family with them, make time for them. My dad, who is still very much in love with my mom, who isn't really feeling it anymore because she spent the last 35 years married to a workaholic farmer. Story 7. Not relationship advice per se, but something that helped immensely in all future relationships. I used to be a typical nerd, including some of the negative stereotypes associated with that. I was never introverted and got along well with most people, very well with those in my immediate vicinity. One weekend I was at a LARP event with some friends and met a girl who I liked and hit off with. It didn't work out and she started seeing someone else that evening. I must have made a face or something because she noticed and gave me this feedback. I was in my own world most of the time, not caring that much about my appearance or the vibes I gave off. Spent most of my time slouched over. She said even though she liked talking to me, my whole demeanor gave off vibes of being somewhat unhappy. In the end, if there are 2 equally nice and interesting people, Why would you choose to spend your time with someone who doesn't even appear to enjoy spending time with himself? It wasn't the most friendly advice, but it stuck. Primarily about me being slouched over all the time, which I consciously tried to correct the following years. It worked. I was never unhappy with myself, but I never put in much effort towards other people either, which I changed, and I think it worked out for the better. In the end, a lot of relationship, whether intimate or other, is about effort. If you put an effort into maintaining it, you give significance to it from the other person's point of view. Sorry, English isn't my first language. Story 8. I had a coworker who had a very happy marriage. I asked her how she chose her husband. She answered, "He was the nicest man I ever met." That was an epiphany for me. I went on to marry the nicest man I ever met. We've been married over 30 years. I won the husband lottery. Story 9. If you have to constantly push your partner for anything, moving in, going out, doing trips, improving anything, getting engaged, it's not a partner, it's a wheelbarrow. Do you want to live with a wheelbarrow? That made me laugh, but opened my eyes on lots of things. Story 10. IDK, if it's considered relationship advice, but when I was around 14 and had my first serious relationship, I went to go see my girl in the evening. Before I went out the door, my dad stopped me and said, "Son, there's one thing that you should know, and after I tell you, I'll shut up about it." If a girl says no, that means no. I felt really awkward 8 months because it seemed obvious, and I felt like my dad saw me as an idiot. 10 years later, I still think about that moment and what my dad said, and I feel so proud of him for pointing out something that is really important. I feel like simple advice like that is not given often enough. Answer. My dad gave me the same no means no talk when he found out I was starting intimacy ed classes in middle school around the age of 11. I wasn't even interested in girls or dating or any of that yet, but he referred to it as the most important thing they'll never teach you in any class at school. I still believe that there's probably no other better piece of wisdom that fathers could give to their sons. Story 11. Try to fix your issues or break up openly. Don't make the same mistakes as me. My first breakup was extremely slow, painful, and cold. It caused my ex to mentally degrade and end up attempting tragic end and haunting my life forever. Communication matters no matter how tired or selfish you are. Answer. I think that advice depends a lot on the stage of the relationship. I think that my decade marriage is worth a lot more compromise and communication and effort than when I was dating. If I was dating someone and after 3 months it just wasn't a fit, I don't think that is worth working through, solving, compromising, especially about foundational stuff. Early dating is for determining compatibility, and I think it's very reasonable to not put a ton of work into a relationship that early. Story 12. Instead of repeating what's already been said, my ex left me, and for a few weeks afterwards, my friends, mom, sister, etc. kept telling me, "Why did she leave you? She's going to realize she made a mistake and come back." My dad, though, brought me aside and straight up told me, "She's not coming back. Let her go." So I did. I tried moving on with that mindset. X200B, lo and behold, she never did come back. Fast forward a few weeks, and I met my now loving wife. This was 10 years ago. Thanks, Dad. Story 13. I had this professor at university. He was an ex-Marine turned therapist. Big, cuddly, but very stern man. The class was interpersonal relations. He told us once that relying on a long-lasting love and relationship to be this explosive, magical experience will always lead to disappointment. He said actually being in love is finding someone who annoys you in ways that you can put up with. And I have found it to be totally true. Story 14. Perceptions are not always reality. More often than not, if your partner does something that bothers you, it wasn't malicious or aimed at you. Rather, they didn't see anything wrong with it. Explaining your feelings and getting their take can help establish healthy and open communication. Story 15. That it only has to not work for one person for the relationship to not work. I used to stay in relationships where I was unhappy because the girlfriend was happy, and I didn't want to make her sad by breaking things off. So I'd stay in it, unhappy, until eventually we were both unhappy enough that we'd end it. I could have saved us both a lot of time and heartache by moving on sooner. Story 16. Look for what your spouse is doing right every day and then express it instead of the lazy default of trying to parent them with criticism. Like this, I sure appreciate how whenever I have something to share, you put down your phone or whatever you are doing and really listen. I feel acknowledged in your love. 14 years later, we'll still do this. Our marriage is filled with positive energy, joy, and love between us daily. P.S. If you look for what your spouse is doing right or wrong, you will find it. Story 17. It's not about intimacy. It's about building a very specific and intimate bond with someone you're attracted to. Being the one person they can go to for their deepest, darkest secrets and trusting you to never reveal that to anyone else. Relationships aren't a game, and the person you're in the relationship isn't a toy. You start out testing the waters, determine if there's something to work with, and go from there and build a foundation for a long-lasting relationship that leads to a family. To be honest, I'm sick and tired of relationships where people test their partners, especially testing their trust. This generation of relationships has this misconception that their partner is a plaything to beat around with, when, in actuality, you're only building into their distrust of everything, which just makes new relationships harder to build, and in some extreme cases, end entire bloodlines because someone really insisted on fudge with their emotions. Story 18. Well, my mother was a staunch Christian and did not like the fact that I was gay, of course. But she once told me, never let a man know how much you love him or he will shoot all over you. She said Dad knew that she loved him, but never knew exactly how much, which is kind of sad when you think about it. Answer: it is sad. It also makes me think of all the relationship posts I see on subs here where, often but not always, a woman outlines a truly appalling partner, a man who takes her for granted, who disrespects her again and again. And it always ends the same way. How do I make him understand? Leaving is not an option for me. While I understand it can feel impossible to leave, there is always a way. I'm not talking about, say, divorce in a country or culture that will not protect women or where there are no resources per se. And the thing is, those men know you believe you cannot leave. They know it. So why change? Why care? Why make the effort? She won't leave. It sort of strikes me as a similar sentiment, but healthier, as in the advice should be. Never let a partner believe you are incapable of leaving them. There should always be a deal breaker. You should know what that is to yourself and honor it. Story 19. My mother told me this when I met my husband, and I've since passed the advice on to my daughters, as I feel it is how a relationship truly succeeds. Communicate comprehension. Do not assume they know how you feel. You must clearly communicate how you feel and ensure that your feelings and theirs are comprehended. Story 20. Never, ever gossip about your partner or your relationship problems to the world. Friends, family, social media. Keep your relationship private and protect it. The moment you divulge sensitive information about your relationship and/or partner, you will lose their trust and they will never look at you the same. Story 21. Learn to do nothing together, or learn to do separate things, but together. I feel like I just recently got to a stage where I hang out with my SO and we'll be like, I want to play video games. Well, I want to scroll YouTube. And then we do both of those things. And it's fudge amazing. Story 22. This is advice I got from my therapist while recovering from a toxic relationship. Make a non-negotiable list. Technically, you would do this while single. Write out everything you need from a long-term partner. Read it every day. Ingrain that list in your head. Because when new relationships start, it is so easy to get lost in the high of falling in love that you miss or shrug off the red flags. Stick to that list. You made it for a reason. You've already decided what you can and won't put up with from a partner. Story 23. Try not to vent about your partner to family or friends, and if you do, be very careful. Your family and friends love you more than they love your partner, and even when you forgive your partner, there's a good chance your family and friends will still hold a grudge for how you said they treated you. Story 24. My uncle, who is married to his wife of over 20 years, said to me once, always put your marriage before your kids. One day the kids will grow up and leave, but your partner is yours for life. It always stuck with me, and I believe I would one day make an effort to live by this. Story 25. My grandmother once told me, it's not you versus her, it's the two of you against the problem. She also heard me come home late one night and said, the only people who stay out past midnight are police officers and prostitutes, and you sure don't look like a police officer. My nan was full of great lines. Story 26. Never go to bed angry, but also don't stay up late fighting. Now, the key here is to read angry as it is. You can go to bed not in love with that moment. You can go to bed not agreeing. You can go to bed feeling like you need to work on things. What you don't want to do is let things fester to the point that you go to bed feeling anger and hopelessness. The key is to agree that you will talk in the morning when you have had time to sleep and mentally rest as well. It can be hard sometimes, but I know I have never been able to meaningfully resolve a conflict when I'm physically and emotionally spent. Story 27. The only thing that makes marriages last is work, not love, because your spouse may do something that makes you not feel loving, not respect because your spouse may do something that makes you not feel respectful. Marriage is a decision to be there every day, even when you're 50 and wake up to them snoring and you think, I just do not want to do this anymore. Secondary piece of advice from my own self, LOL, is how long I allow myself to be upset about things. If I'm in a fight with my husband, no matter how mad I am, I think, will I be upset in 2 days? Will I care at all after a month? Will I even remember after a year? Then I remind myself I have decades with this person. Decades where I won't even remember some dumb tiff. So why not be calm and fix it right then and drop it after and move on to loving him? I'm a hell of a lot happier loving him than fighting him. Story 28. So it's not normal to say things like, it's okay if you don't actually listen to me. I get that everything I say is stupid. Don't worry, I'm not mad. But can you at least nod or something to give me the illusion? To your partner while sobbing on the floor while he's playing video games, not even looking in your direction. Story 29. Nothing too philosophical, more real-world applicable. Much like camping, hiking. Leave no trace, meaning don't leave your dirty dishes laying around. Don't leave your old socks in the living room. Pick up your own little messes, and it will make the house run much, much smoother. Story 30. What other people do has more to do with them than with you. Applicable to both romantic relationships, family, and friendships. I think for me, as someone with anxious attachment and a lot of trauma to work on, this has been one of the best pieces of advice. This advice helps not taking it so personal when my own insecurities get triggered. Story 31. Don't forget who you were before you had kids. Too many parents turn into empty nesters and then completely fail to reconnect with their spouse. Don't lose sight of being a couple just because you are parents. You shouldn't need to reconnect. Don't lose that connection to begin with. I can honestly say that if my kids left the house right now, my wife and my relationship would not skip a beat. Story 32. If your spouse partner asks you to do something with them, do it. I was talking to an older coworker a long time ago about how my fiance likes to play video games. I don't particularly like them, but she told me to play if he asked me to. It's not so much about just doing what your partner asks you to, but actively participating in the relationship by trying new things and engaging. Story 33. You can ask your partner to do something. Can you please load the dishwasher? Or you can tell your partner how you would prefer them to do something. Next time you load the dishwasher, can you put the wine glasses on the second rack? But you can't do both at the same time. You would be amazed how much leaving some autonomy in a process reduces friction. Story 34. I don't know if this counts as advice, but when I was going through a rough breakup, I went online and looked for how to deal with a breakup. I landed on a site on how to tell if your relationship was toxic. I was able to check every box. I felt better after that. I made the right decision, and there was no going back. Story 35. People say marriage is 50-50. That's why marriage is 100. Sometimes you give 50 each. Sometimes you can only manage 20 and your partner takes up 80. You'll be in balance a lot of the time. But when you're feeling put upon, remember that last time they took on more. You're a team. Take on the world together. Story 36. My soon-to-be wife and I got this advice early in our relationship, and I am glad we did. Make sure you make time for yourselves. Spending time with my partner is my singular favorite thing to do. She's my best friend and makes me laugh constantly. But that doesn't mean I don't need time and that she doesn't need time alone. Sometimes that means she goes on a hike and I play some disc golf by myself. Sometimes that's her reading in the other room while I play a video game or watch hockey. That way, you're keeping yourself happy while supplementing it with time with your partner. Story 37. Don't share bank accounts. So many potential fights and problems are avoided by keeping your own separate funds. And it means that treating your soda dinner or buying them something nice isn't actually coming out of their wallet. It's not as mushy as some other advice, but it is easy to do and practical. Story 38. Never give all the heart, for love will hardly seem worth thinking of. To passionate women if it seems certain, and they never dream that it fades out from kiss to kiss. For everything that's lovely is but a brief, dreamy, kind delight. Oh, never give the heart outright, for they, for all smooth lips can say, have given their hearts up to the play. And who could play it well enough if deaf and dumb and blind with love? He that made this knows all the cost, for he gave all his heart and lost. Thanks to W.B. Yeats for that nugget of wisdom. Story 39. 1. We're on the same team. A lot of times if a conversation is heating up, one of us will say, same team. because we're usually on the same page and communicating things a little differently. It cools things off pretty quickly. 2. Uncommunicated expectations or planned resentments. This is a big one, and I only stumbled upon it in the last year or so. Any explanation I give will fail to convey the weight of this statement, but read it and think about it. It makes total sense. 3. Be cognizant of when your partner has a heavier load than normal. Pick up extra duties without being asked, or just do little things that help the other out. My wife and I each have a list of little likies, I name them, that are small things the other enjoys. We try to do those things for each other when we see that they may be needed. Story 40. Go to bed mad. Fighting when tired is a manipulation. Emotions will be higher. You'll say things you don't mean and agree to anything to go to bed. Think back on all your, I don't know how it happened, how we got here fights or arguments. Were they late at night? Go to bed. There is a reason we sleep on big decisions. Just be sure to talk again tomorrow. Story 41. When you're mad, remember who they are, not who your anger is turning them into. I.e., don't assume malice when it's probably simple error or lack of consideration. Too often, we turn the people we care about into bad people who are making our lives hard on purpose when it couldn't be less true. If you can remember that, you'll be a lot less upset, you'll get upset less often, you'll be able to communicate your needs better because you can do it without accusing your partner of being a jerk. Story 42. Walking out of the hospital with my newborn daughter and my wife, an old couple, stopped us to see the baby, and then the old man looked at me and said, "Don't forget about yourselves. Love each other and remember not to make everything about the kid, but about you and your wife as well." At the time, it upset me a little bit, but that was almost 10 years ago, and I remember the words, and I understand what he meant now. Crazy, huh? Story 43. Something that took me a long time realized is that relationships are not overly complicated, and making them complicated does not make them any more special. Relationships take work, and that work can come in different forms, but if you like someone and you like them, then you can find a way to make it work. If there is something in your life that you consider more of a priority, like work or extended family, and you aren't married or have kids, then just don't be in a relationship. Story 44. I thought this was sentimental faux therapeutic shoot for so long, until I realized that it's essentially the foundation to any functional relationship, especially if you come from trauma and dysfunction. If you do not heal what hurt you, you will bleed on people who did not cut you. So simple, so complex, so utterly mind-bending if you haven't yet properly taken it in. Do better, be better, give better, and be kind to yourself if you can, has given me more grace and more patience than a lot else. Story 45. If your partner does something that makes you angry and frustrated all the time it happens, make him buy you something you like, small things like ice cream, coffee, etc. Now, every time he forgets to throw out the trash, you will be happy for ice cream and not angry at him. Story 46. More so breakup advice. When your partner says they want to break up, listen to that choice. They have decided they no longer are choosing the relationship. Do not try to convince them otherwise. It never works, and you want someone who is committed to you, not persuaded into being committed to you. You want them to want it every time. Story 47. Not just regarding a relationship with someone else, but the best advice I ever got was when I was bad-mouthing about a meanie I was living with. He said, "What you are saying doesn't make me like you anymore." It was instant enlightenment for me that by dwelling on all the negative, I was being negative. Another friend always said, along these same lines, look for the good. No matter the situation or person, there is good to be found. Story 48. Sorry. Long read by S.O. Worth It. The 5 as is the best daily marriage check-in created by a wonderful counselor I know. This little marriage practice has tremendously helped my husband and I. The 5 A's by Roger Tirabassi. The idea came to me about 16 years ago, Roger explained. As a counselor, I am always looking for ways to help people. And when it comes to marriage, I wanted to find ways to help couples stay consistent with each other, to affirm each other daily. I also wanted a simple way for them to clean up little irritations and frustrations, to keep those from building up. We've all heard that it isn't the big blowouts that take out marriages. It's the slow leaks. I've taught these ever since. I even teach them at every wedding I officiate, Roger said. I've heard from countless couples that it's really helped. Many men will say that they aren't good at communicating, but they can do this. Roger explained that people tend to do the right things naturally when they are dating or engaged. They focus on the strengths of the other person. If they do see weaknesses, they minimize them, or just assume they can live with whatever it is. Unfortunately, this reverses after marriage, and we tend to focus on our partner's weaknesses and minimize their strengths. Practicing the brief daily discipline of the 5, as is a quick and effective way to strengthen marriages. 1. Affirmation. Affirm each other for something the other person did or something you like or appreciate about him or her. Avoid making negative or sarcastic comments during your affirmation, such as, "I was surprised that you actually helped me." 2. Affection. Physical touch is essential to healthy relationships. Even when you are tired, it's important to be intentional with your affection. This can simply be a hug, a love pat, or holding hands. 3. Apology. It's important to keep short accounts since it's so easy to hurt each other. If couples develop the habit of apologizing to one another every day, they might need less counseling. An easy way to do this is to ask, "Is there any way I irritated, frustrated, or hurt you today?" Each partner can only share one incident, after which the person who asked needs to respond with, "I am sorry for hurting you. Will you forgive me?" Try hard not to defend yourself during this time. Roger also stressed that this is for the more minor offenses, not relational felonies. Deep hurts need more focus and more time. 4. Ask your partner, "Is there anything I can do for you today or tomorrow?" Depending on what time of day you ask. Your request should be only one item a day. This gives you an opportunity to serve your partner. 5. Amen. The final A is the question, "How can I pray for you right now?" This may seem awkward at first for some, but most couples find it significantly improves their connection with God and each other. Keep it simple. For example, "Dear God, thank you for my spouse. I pray that you will help him/her with a specific need. Thank you. Amen." Roger and Becky have practiced the 5 as for years and have found the experience to be intentional ways of connecting daily. Roger explained that the success of the 5 A's is because they are a short 3 to 5 minute exercise that helps you connect and feel close with your spouse physically, emotionally, and spiritually. He suggests incorporating them into your daily routine at bedtime. You can take turns sharing one A at a time, or each partner can do all 5 at once, or vary things to find an order, and that works for you. Story 49. You should worship each other. It's a lot easier to forgive and make amends when you hold each other in high esteem, and you gain synergy when there's that type of energy coming from both. It can be a wonderful feeling to both get lost in the other. It probably leads to a better intimacy life as well. Story 50. When my boyfriend and I got a dog together, we were stressed about the dog getting along with the cats. My roommate has never had a pet before and had all kinds of nonsense worries like, what if the dog doesn't like me? What if the dog howls? And worried about feeling responsible for taking the dog out anytime she enters the house, even though my boyfriend works from home and is there all the time. My commute to work is 7 mins, so I can easily come by during my lunch break to walk the dog. Anyway, my boyfriend wanted to get rid of the dog on like day 3. I was crying and upset because the dog deserved a chance. I called his mom because she's an amazing person that always gives great advice. She said to think about if there's maybe some things going on in his life that is overwhelming him, aside from the dog, and to put the conversation on pause. Because if we keep talking about it while upset, it won't solve anything. It's better to wait and go back to it once we've calmed down. That's exactly what we did. He was feeling pressured with school and whatnot. I offered to take all of the responsibility of training the dog and taking her out and whatnot. Of course, he did help with taking her out. We ended up finding a really good dog trainer, and now the doggy and kitties can hang out together without issues. Story 51. Don't love with your heart or with what's in your pants. Love with your head. With time and age, I've come to figure that the other two's input needs to have a say. But he was right. The decisions in love need to come from your head. All the heartfelt infatuation in the world can't save you from a problem that your logic could have solved in 60 seconds. Story 52. I was engaged, told a whole bunch of people about it, and absolutely miserable. I was sticking with it out of sheer pride. A great friend was listening to me vent about it and said, so ignore me if this isn't any of my business. But if you're going to marry this lady and spend the rest of your life with her, shouldn't she make you happy? Story 53. Don't try to be a hero in a relationship. Before I met my wife, I dated people who had real serious issues, and I thought that if I loved them and sacrificed enough that I would change their lives or make them happier people. But you can't fix people's lives like that. People need to take control of their own life. So after that, I purposefully made sure to date someone who didn't need me and didn't need anyone to make their life, which is honestly way more rewarding for everyone. And I still sacrifice for her, but she does the same for me, and we make each other's lives better for it. Story 54. My brother, when our baby was born, pulled me aside and said, "Look, everyone is telling you it goes by too quickly and all that bullshit, but it's hard. The thing is, it just keeps getting easier." Anytime you look at your wife and you're both overwhelmed and you think, "This is my life now," stop and say, "This is my life right now," because in a week, it'll be different. Don't make any relationship decisions based on a phase that lasts 3 months. Story 55. Everyone's posting about how to stay. Best advice I ever got was know when to walk. Know when a relationship just isn't going to work. And instead of trying to keep it on life support because you're afraid of it ending, know when it's time to throw in the towel and say, "We had a good run, but this isn't working anymore, and I'm unhappy." It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of pain. This isn't to say walk away whenever a relationship isn't perfect. There's times to work on things, times to compromise, times to make concessions. But there's also a time where you need to realize that you two just aren't right. And no matter what you do, one or both of you are going to just be unhappy. And at that point, it's time to exit. Some people are not meant to be in your life forever. Some relationships serve their purpose being temporary. Sometimes a couple is right for now, not forever. And that's perfectly fine. That's life. But don't hang on to a relationship just because you're too scared to let it go when you know it's over, and it probably has been for a bit. Story 56. My father, who was a first-class womanizer, told me when I was 10 years old to never allow a man to take from you what you don't want to give, and you will be treated as good or bad as you allow anyone to treat you. And finally, he told me that if a man lays a hand on you, say nothing, wait till he falls asleep and beat the shoot out of him, then walk away and never come back. I'm 60 now. My dad has long been gone, but I've lived my life by those rules, and only once has a guy put his hands on me. I was 60. I couldn't sleep, eat, or function until I had it out. Scared the shoot out of him too. I gave my children the same advice, and thankfully they're happily married with good, loving men. Story 57. Little changes are good. You want a partner who you can grow with. Healthy changes are good too. But if they want you to change something drastic about yourself, like your sense of humor or innocent little quirks that you've always had, they're just not right for you. Story 58. At the rehearsal dinner before our wedding, my 96-year-old great-grandmother told me, "If you want a peaceful marriage, keep his stomach full and his balls empty." Then she laughed so hard that she had to readjust her oxygen tube. I know it was crass and sounds like some old-timey patriarchal BS, but I've always remembered it. That's really all it takes for him to be content with our life, and he always goes above and beyond to take care of me and the kids. He would move mountains for me, and all I have to do is make him a ham sandwich and suck his male body part a few times a week. Story 59. Just because you're married doesn't mean you're not dating anymore. Never lose that kind of spontaneous energy for little gifts, surprises, tokens of affection, special trips, or even just a kind word. It's just a new stage of the relationship, not some endpoint where you can stop putting effort in. Story 60. Relationships are 50-50 on a macro scale, but in the moment, it's not always that way. Sometimes it will be 50-50, but sometimes it's 30-70 or 80-20. And trying to keep track is a good way to become resentful. Be thankful for each other and be charitable, generous with each other. Story 61. Everyone's advice is always relationships are 50-50. Granddad told me on my wedding day that relationships are not 50-50. There are going to be times in your relationship that one of you has to take up more of that percentage due to illness, mental fatigue, work stress, unforeseen circumstances. If you are only giving your partner 50 of your energy, love, devotion, help, then you aren't giving your full potential. Each partner should give 100 as often as they can, even if the 100 is simply finding the remote or getting a glass of water or plugging in their dead phone. It's not much, but in the moment it can feel like 100 for a partner that just can't deal at the moment. Story 62. Anyone who tells you that marriages are 50-50 are full of bullshit. Healthy marriages are often never that. Sometimes I'll be a 10 and my wife is a 90, and sometimes she's a 30 and I'm the 70. We have to pick up where the other lacks, and vice versa. It's a partnership, not a competition. Story 63. Not really advice, but example. My mother and father-in-law had an amazing marriage. They supported each other's ambitions. They laughed, they were affectionate, teasing, and open-minded. My father-in-law considered being a stay-at-home mom an important career, even when I did it a generation later. But when MIL decided to work, he was so proud of her. My husband was the same. I got very, very lucky. Story 64. Not sure if anyone has said it yet, but love isn't just a feeling. It's most importantly a choice. Feelings fluctuate, but choosing a person every day is more sustainable and helps make love last. This helped me love my partner even more than I could imagine. Story 65. Just understanding the dynamics of men and women. We both need love and respect. Men need more respect than love, where women need more love than respect. It's the balance. If a man doesn't feel like he's respected, he feels useless. If a woman doesn't feel loved, she will look for it from somewhere else. If the man gives the woman a reason to respect him, she will give him a reason to love her. Story 66. If you have to fight for a relationship, then it isn't yours anymore. Learned this one a few decades ago, and it stopped dead any feelings of jealousy in relationships, and it's made shrugging off unsuccessful relationships a breeze. But now I'm settled with a long-term partner. I don't need to use it anymore. Story 67. A relationship should be like a lazy river. Sure, every now and then you'll bump your head, have conflict, but it's expected. No lazy river relationship is a 100 perfect. However, if you're constantly hitting walls, dragging your head, or swimming backwards, it probably means you should get out of the water. Moral of the story, your relationship shouldn't be some laborious headache that keeps getting you hurt. For the most part, you should be able to go with the flow and enjoy it. If you're not, move on. Story 68. Stop giving to men who never give anything back to you. Stop giving men intimacy and other relationship benefits within the first months if you want to know if they are serious. By all means, sleep with them, but don't come crying. Also, talk a lot, be respectful, never get angry, put the same energy into the relationship as the other. Cook together, do fun things together, bring positivity in their life. Story 69. Allow each other to have separate lives. This has been a big one for me with my wife. I hear and see this about so many men who have to ask permission to go out with the boys or go on a trip or what have you. That's bullshit. When you get married or enter into a long-term relationship, you don't give up your other life. There are still things you may want to do alone, sans spouse, and that's perfectly fine and no permission is needed. And don't get married until you're 30. People change a lot in their 20s and don't become their real selves until 30-ish. Story 70. You can, and sometimes you should, go to bed angry and deal with it the next day. So many times early on, my husband and I tried to resolve an argument before we went to bed. We both ended up exhausted and angry. Now we go to sleep together and wake up and realize that we were both tired and being ridiculous and solve the issue with patience and understanding. Story 71. Not a relationship advice per se, but I was talking to my older sister about how I missed my girlfriend after over 2 years since we'd broken up. As well as I said that I felt like we were perfect for each other. She said, she might have been perfect for you then, for the person that you were when you were together, but she might not be perfect for the person that you are now, the person you've become during those years apart. It's easy to think like you do, but it's not good for anyone to think, what if this happened? Instead, really good advice and something that helped me a lot. Story 72. Lead through serving and mutual submission. For example, if your spouse wants to do something and wants you to come along really badly, and you can do it even if you do not want to. That will show them that you are committed to them, and I always have a better time than I thought I would. Story 73. When arguing, 1. No cursing. 2. No sarcasm. 3. No raising your voice. Just following these 3 rules allowed us to finish an argument or come back to it later without escalating it to the point where the argument is now about something else entirely. Also, regular and intimate intimacy is more important than you think. Story 74. Fight respectfully. Disagreements will happen, but it's how you resolve them that is really important. My wife and I never call each other names, never hurl insults, never make the other one feel bad. We make an active effort to try and understanding one another's position, and if emotions are getting too high, we give each other space until one or both calm down. Mostly, though, don't get into fights and just try and come to an agreement like mature adults. Story 75. If everything works according to plan, your life will include a medium to long list of failed romantic relationships, followed by 1 or 2 extremely long stretches of successfully being in a relationship. Don't focus on all the ones that fail. Focus on working towards the ones that don't. If you're into the whole get married and stay married thing, that means you could have dozens of failures all leading up to one success. X200B. Same advice goes for starting companies, incidentally, and the comparison between the two made me evaluate my wife more as a family co-founder instead of a slam piece I want to lock down long-term. I believe doing so enabled me to make a wildly better decision when I ultimately did end up getting married. Story 76. My dad always told me it's better to be happy and alone than unhappy with someone to answer to. He raised me to be kind, considerate of my choices, and whether I was willing to accept both the positive and negative consequences of them, and above all else, be completely independent of any other person. He wanted me to learn that if I'm happy with myself, I'm more likely to maintain relationships that add to my life. I've now been with the love of my life for 10 years, married for 5, and we still have all the laughs, joy, and intimacy that we had a decade ago. Story 77. You're going to have ups and downs in your relationship. It's normal. The ups should be very great, as you'd expect, and the downs should still be manageable. If the downs in your relationship are very, very hard with verbal abuse or manipulation, it ought to be left immediately. I have zero tolerance for any of that now. Story 78. We write each other small, specific thank you notes and leave them hidden where we know they will be found. It's incredibly heartwarming and positively reinforces the desire to be helpful and agreeable. He started this, am forever grateful and smitten. Story 79. Keep your issues to yourselves. If you argue, it stays behind closed doors. No one needs to see, hear, or know, unless it's really abusive. That's a different type of toxic. However, small fights are healthy and should be inevitable. You don't talk about them to your mother or father. Maybe a best friend can give some advice, but to make it public is an error. Story 80. I grew up with a conservative Christian upbringing, and one piece of advice stuck out to me. If you're unfamiliar with the verse, there's a passage, 1 Corinthians 4-7, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. So I was in love with this girl, and her father was a pastor, and he told me 2 things. The first was that he won't approve of anyone wanting to marry his daughter unless his daughter could replace the word love with the name of her suitor. The second bit of advice was to buy all the stuff you want to get before you get married, because after you get married, it's family money, and you don't have nearly as much freedom to get what you want. Story 81. I love relationships have seasons. That really resonated with me. BC, I live in a place that has 4 seasons, and I absolutely fudge dislike winter. But I know my favorite season is just on the other side. As long as I wait a little, I really feel like that's marriage in a nutshell. Shoot, gonna get cold and uncomfortable sometimes, but it will pass as long as both partners are committed to growing together. Story 82. Don't set yourself on fire to keep your partner warm. Alternatively, if you're putting in all the effort in a relationship, spending up your happiness, time, money, etc., just to keep your partner happy and content to not put in similar effort, emotional, financial freeloading, might mean that you're just another log on the fire to them. Story 83. Go into every date as an opportunity to make a friend. Sometimes cool people don't jive romantically, but they do platonically. It also takes a ton of the pressure off feeling like you need to perform for a stranger, which can really be a benefit if sparks do fly. Story 84. It should be you and your partner versus the problem, not you versus your partner. X200B, also, talk, FFS, communicate, over-communicate. If your partner says something that hurts your feelings, ask them if that's what they meant, then watch for change. People say and do stupid shoot without thinking how it may be perceived. They might not being actively trying to hurt you. The key is to see if they continue once they are made aware that what they said or did was not appropriate. X200B, extra. If your partner cheats on you, don't go after the other man, woman, whatever. Your partner made promises to you, not the other person. Your partner betrayed you. It's their fault, not the other person's fault. They made you no oaths of fidelity. Story 85. Well, what works for me is always give more than you receive, but he follows the same idea, so we're both always doing more for each other, and we don't base our relationship on 50-50. Sometimes he does more, sometimes I do. Some days he's giving 70 and I'm barely giving 30, or vice versa, but we make it work. It's all about making it work. It's never going to be perfect. Story 86. I went to a talk from a Buddhist Lama right before I got married on relationships. He said a lot of things, 3 about relationships. 1, never go to sleep mad at each other. 2, keep buying flowers, candy. Don't stop just because you've been together a while. 3, it's a continual process of discovery, keep getting to know each other, etc. We've been together over 10 years. Not bad, I guess. That advice helped me. Story 87. One time I was talking to my friend who was engaged, and I made the comment, but I am not in a relationship, so I can't work on my relationship. He responded, why not? I can't change her. I can only change me. So when I say I am working on my relationship, what I really mean is I am just working on being the best version of me I can be. You don't have to be in a relationship to do that. I have been working on my marriage ever since. Maybe one day I will get married. Story 88. The best thing to ever happen to me in terms of my relationships was not words of advice, but a realization. You are not always right. Even if you strongly feel you are right, it's possible that you are wrong. Once I accepted that and started to actually listen, everything got a lot easier, and my relationships got much, much better. Story 89. Never stop working on yourself. Continue to grow with your partner. If issues come up in a relationship, communicate with them. And if there is something reasonable that you can improve on to prevent an issue in the future, then work on it. Not being willing to work on an issue can be a problem. Also, just keep working on yourself in general. I think people should always work to improve themselves so you can like the person who you are. Story 90. Never go to bed angry at each other. Not only does doing this harm both people mentally, you never know when the last time you might talk to your partner is. Every night, whether in person or over text or the phone, I always make sure to say I love you. If there are issues going on that night, then I always make sure to talk them out before going to bed. Story 91. You aren't happy, and if he won't help you get to happy, then you got to figure out how to get to happy on your own. Probably the best advice my mom has ever given me. I filed for divorce a few days later. I met my soulmate a year later, and holy hell, this relationship is 10x better. My mom was right. Story 92. Make a list of all the traits of your ex that pissed you off. Buy yourself a pair of running shoes and put them in your closet. In your next relationship, watch for any of the traits that you have on your list. The minute you recognize any of those traits, put on those shoes and run away from the relationship. Story 93. The feeling of love will come and go in a relationship. You must choose to love and act out of love, even when the feeling might not be there. You desire to be in love with this person, so you need to act upon that desire instead of a feeling. No amount of love will keep it around if we don't choose it. Sleep token. Take me back to Eden. Story 94. Dr. Phil's whole 50-50 thing, telling your partner some days when you may be exhausted or sick, it's going to have to be 80-20. And that's how you get taken care of when you're low, and vice versa. More Dr. Phil is whoever it's more important to makes the choice. Be open and honest and know it's work, but the reward's a life of love and what could be better. Story 95. Don't give up. If you're about to, lay out the issues with your partner. Tell them you're thinking about giving up and ask them to commit to working on it for 6 months. If they agree, then you work on the issues together. 90% of the time, the relationship comes out stronger than ever. Story 96. Whenever your SO is telling you something about their day or something going on, ask them, do you want me to feel it or fix it? Because a lot of the time when you SO is telling you something, you might resort to saying, this is what you should have done. This is what I would have done. But sometimes they just need an ear to help them unwind. Because hindsight is 20/20, and they've probably already come to the same conclusion. Story 97. Regardless of your religion, read Song of Songs in the Bible and learn the author's meaning to the odd statements. They are very odd, but almost like a kinky code to a lover spouse. If you can write kinky letters, keep the relationship spicy, you're doing it right. Story 98. I like the advice that when you have a disagreement on what to do, have each partner rate their desire for their preferred outcome on a scale of 1 to 10. If both partners are honest and unselfish, it helps resolve conflicts that are major to one partner and maybe not quite as meaningful to the other. It helps, I think, to show how much each partner cares about a particular thing and puts things into perspective. Story 99. Never go to bed on an argument. It's always worse if you drag it out to the next morning and then other things start to get dragged into it. Try and sit down and communicate and listen to each other fairly. Sometimes it's hard, but swallow your pride and listen. You may find it is you. That is you in the wrong. If you can't agree, then just accept their feelings on the subject and apologize for how it had made them feel. People want to have their feelings heard and acknowledged. Story 100. 1. You have to learn how to communicate with each other. I grew up watching my mother explode any and every relationship she had because she talks in some weird jerk broken code. If something is important to you, tell them. People can not read your mind. If they ask what's wrong, do not say you should know. Tell them. If you want to do something, say, I really want to do this. Don't just hope and wish for them to do it and get pissed when they don't. Do not speak in implications. If you are asked a direct question, give a direct answer. Instead of instantly getting mad, ask questions. 2. Work on your emotional maturity. While emotions are vital, it is also vital that you understand the difference between your emotions and your response. If your partner loses their job, it's natural to be worried, upset, stressed, and frustrated. If you come at them with all those emotions raging, it will not make anything better. So collect yourself and have a calm conversation and strategize on how to work through. Be there to support them, and together you can figure it out. Also, it's important to remember to self-check your emotions. The more you dive in, the more they can spiral out way beyond anything remotely close to rational, and no good will come of it. Do not stew in your emotions. Clearly communicate, convey them to the best of your ability, and talk through them. Story 101. A relationship is rarely ever 50-50 all the time. Sometimes it's 20-80, sometimes 40-60. Even sometimes it's 5-95. You have to have each other's back in public. Even if you don't agree, later you can tell your partner, look, I want to talk about XBC, I feel this way. And you just got to be honest and trust in your partner. Otherwise, why are you with them? Story 102. When I was about 19, my mother said date all the bad boys you want to, but be sure to marry your best friend. That's exactly what I did. Dated a few that never would have been introduced to my family. Married my best friend from high school. It'll be 40 years married this September. Story 103. Combo of 2 pieces of solid advice received that has provided solid foundation for my wife and I over the past 27 years. 1. Communicate, communicate, and communicate. Learn how to share your feelings and thoughts with your partner. Do not assume they are a mind reader. Learn to share the good, the bad, and the ugly so can work together. 2. Fight over little things. Discuss the big things. Arguments happen in any relationship. Learn how to recognize big thing and try to have a focused conversation on it. Other postings here similar as build on you and them against the issue, not you versus spouse. The little things can help as outlets when struggling to share thoughts. Usually these are things you can get past and look back to laugh upon. The other advice is respect for yourself and your spouse. We all tend to our spouses first, so easy to lose yourself. People key off that in a negative way. Respect yourself too, and it creates a positive environment for both. So much good advice in this thread. Great question to ask. Story 104. When a couple has a disagreement about something, discuss it in neutral territory. Whenever my late DH and I were about to have a big argument that we knew could be volatile, we always went out to discuss it. It could be a dinner, a park, or anywhere in public which we would not start yelling at each other. We were able to calmly discuss the issue and come to a compromise. Worked every time with the team, exception of him turning off the AC during a heat spell in August. Given that it would 2 o'clock a.m., options of going elsewhere were out of the question. Story 105. Don't give your partner 100 of yourself, because if it doesn't work out and they leave, or even if it does work out and they're with you until they die, you will have nothing left for yourself. Unsolicited advice from my dad. Wish I had taken it to heart. Story 106. Never go to sleep angry, upset with one another. Something my wife and I always do is we always say, I love you at the end of a phone call or before I leave for work. You never know if that will be the last time you talk again. If something happened to me, the last thing I would have told my wife is that I love her. Story 107. Years ago, a friend told me she was talking to her grandma about problems with her boyfriend, how it seems like everything with him is so difficult. Her grandma told her that when it's the right person, you don't have to try so hard. My own grandmother said that marriage is not always going to smooth sailing. There'll be ups and downs. But if you support each other and work together, you can get through it. My advice is never underestimate gratitude. Some people feel taken for granted, especially when it comes to housework. Just saying thank you for little things or telling them how much you appreciate everything they do, it goes a long way. You've got to help out too, though. Story 108. At our wedding, my dad gave a beautiful speech and included a sports metaphor because my husband works in sports. In it, he said that we were now a team. Our friends and family are there to support us, but we left our other teams and formed a new team, and it needs to be our priority. When we come up against big challenges, I remember that. Story 109. Communicate, communicate, communicate. This is not to drone on about crazy shoot. This is have an adult two-way conversation about things that matter, and it all matters. Not crazy needs and desires, but real shoot. I know I just hit twice there, but it's so important. Story 110. In the middle of an argument, stop and ask the other person to explain to you what they think your argument is. Then do the same for their argument. Half the time when people argue in relationships, they don't even know what the other person is upset about. Story 111. You are both in service to the relationship, not you, not your partner, but the relationship. So whatever you do or don't do should be with respect and attention of the relationship, as in both of you, what's right and good and best for the relationship. It's a huge thing to understand and get. Story 112. I worked in a retirement home when I was in high school, and one of the residents pulled me aside one day and told me, before you marry someone, find out how they handle their anger. I said okay and ran off, humoring her. But 40 years later, as an adult, I think a lot about what the sad story must have been behind that advice. Story 113. I'm 47 and single. Single because I saw warning signs and didn't endure bad relationships. I would say go into a relationship with little expectation. Let the person show you who they are. I would give a person a couple chances, but if this doesn't work out, don't settle because you will regret it. Story 114. You are equal with your partner and communicate. Always talk. You have a problem. Tell them. Don't be scared because you're in this together. If they refuse to fix it, they're not for you. Don't just silently wait for the problem to fix itself. You need to tell them that this is a problem for you and why, and suggest a way to fix it together. Story 115. Actions speak louder than words. Do you feel unloved, uncared for despite the sweet nothings being whispered into your ear? They aren't actively showing you that you matter to them. And if they're hitting you or hurting you, what should be obvious is that they dislike you. You can't make a relationship with that. Story 116. Late to the party, but this one I believe I first heard from my parents, although I'm certain they didn't invent it. Marriage is a choice. It's not always easy. It will sometimes take effort. But so long as you wake up every day and chose to continue to love each other, you'll always get through it. The moment you stop making that choice is when things start to fall apart. Story 117. If you don't understand why someone feels that it is important to apologize to you, don't just reassure them. Figure out why they feel what they did would make you upset. Because people usually apologize for things that would make them upset, and understanding why they think what they did is a big deal will help you not do it to them. Story 118. One of my favorite Lil Moments advice. I cannot remember where we got it, but we use it a lot. When your SO annoys you, stop for a second and think, I do annoying things too, or I'm annoying too. It puts so much in perspective. And the one time I was freaking out about something silly and I heard my husband whisper it in the hallway, I laughed so hard. Super good to bring back those vibes when they're missing. Story 119. Make sure you are both grounded with your own selves before getting involved. If you're just dating, then that's the courting process to find out if your personality and goals align. When one goes into a relationship not grounded and not dealing with emotional issues, it makes for a bad relationship, codependency, and all kinds of other garbage. Not fair to either of you. Get yourself grounded and happy with who you are, and the right person will come along. Best of luck. Story 120. My wife and I stumbled onto this habit after getting hurt feelings during the after-reception party the day we got married. Every night when we're saying goodnight, we each ask the other, do you forgive me for my shortcomings? We each say yes, then say I love you, and kiss goodnight. In one go, we are admitting that we each have shortcomings and asking for forgiveness. I think it keeps resentments from building up. Story 121. I never really had positive couples as role models while I was younger. My parents were the closest thing, but my grandfather avoided conflict at all costs, so nothing was ever discussed. With that being said, one day when my GMA made my lunch for school, I asked where GPA's was. She said she stopped making his lunch when he criticized the lunch he made her when they were first married. Moral of the story, don't diss the meals prepared for you. Story 122. My parents always talked about fair fighting. They never played games, drudged up old fights in the midst of a new one, and never spoke disrespectfully to or about one another. They were by no means perfect, but they were solid. Regarding parenting, they were always a united front and made sure us kids were aware of that. What one parent said stood for both, so we couldn't get a no from mom and run to dad for a different answer. As a wife and mother now, I appreciate these concepts above most things, and it has helped create a solid foundation for my own little family. Story 123. Being in love is a choice. Choosing your partner and family first. There are exceptions to this, but a lot of folks let themselves fall out of love. Ideally, you should fall in love with one another over and over again as you grow and change together. Two people are a family as well. If one of you is having a bad day, then the other should try to have a good day. One of you at a time, especially if kids are involved. Show appreciation clearly and frequently. A relationship is not a scorecard. Unless it is specifically agreed upon, you should not be doing things for someone so that they will do things for you. That is disingenuous, and it breeds contempt out of thin air. Find someone that likes to wake up when you do. This one was especially important to me because I wake up quite early and feel my best first thing in the morning. I love sharing that time with my wife and now my son as well. I feel this one is less paramount and more personal. Story 124. Best advice for marriage was it to not measure good days and bad days, but in years together. You're in it for the long haul. You will have boring years, great years, horrible years, exciting years, etc. And the ebb and flow of it all doesn't only happen on a day-to-day basis.